The tremor began subtly, like a distant whisper from the New York ground. Sophia, 28, a visionary game designer with a touch of melancholy, felt the metallic chill of a premonition. It wasn't a game, but death was inviting her to a final round. The fire, the roar of flames licking the old Butterfield building, where her new game launch was to take place, and a deafening sound of plaster and metal collapsing. She saw herself there, trapped, the suffocating smell of smoke. Cold sweat trickled down Sophia's neck as she awoke, gasping in the oppressive silence of her Brooklyn apartment. The image of the Butterfield building in flames, once majestic in her childhood memories, was now a vivid omen. The launch of Chronoshift, her magnum opus, was scheduled to happen there in exactly 2 weeks. The premonition wasn't just a nightmare. It was an instruction. Her fingers, usually nimble on the keyboard, trembled as she called Alex, 30, a fellow programmer and right-hand man, a skeptic with a sarcastic sense of humor. "Alex, we need to change the launch venue. Immediately." On the other end of the line, Alex's yawn was almost audible. "Sophia, are you okay?" The team spent months negotiating the Butterfield. "It's iconic, perfect for the game's retro theme." "I know, but I had a premonition. A fire. The building, Alex, it's going to collapse." Her voice was a thread, but the conviction in it was unshakable. Alex sighed. "Look, I know you're intense, but this is too much. We have investors, contracts. We can't just change our minds because of a dream." "It's not a dream." "I saw it, Alex. I felt the heat, the smell of smoke, the panic of the people." There was a pause. Alex knew that behind Sophia's brilliant facade, there was an almost paranormal sensitivity. He had seen her have strange insights that proved correct. "Okay," he finally said, his voice full of resignation. "I'll see what I can do. But don't expect miracles." In the days that followed, Sophia plunged into a frantic search for alternative venues. The Butterfield, with its Gothic architecture and century-old charm, now seemed like a trap. With each report on historic buildings and their structural flaws, Sophia's anxiety grew. Time was running out, and the feeling that death was one step ahead of her was palpable. She felt the cold air in the office when a chilling gust of wind entered through the open window, bringing with it the damp smell of wet concrete and rusted metal. It was a cruel reminder of what was to come. Every email from Alex about the difficulty of relocating the event, every no from potential new venues, trapped her more firmly in the web the premonition had woven. Death, she realized, did not like its plans altered. Sophia's persistence finally paid off, but not without a cost. The new venue, the grand ballroom of the Empire State Building, was more modern and secure, but the aura of the premonition still haunted her. The last-minute change led to friction with investors and an overload of work for the team. Sophia, exhausted, felt like she was playing chess against an invisible opponent, and every move she made seemed anticipated. Alex, though still skeptical, supported Sophia. He met her at the company's cafeteria in Manhattan, the smell of strong coffee lingering in the air, the city's vibrant atmosphere contrasting with the disturbing quiet within her. "We did it, the Empire State, but the costs are astronomical. I hope you're right about this, Sophia," he said, his voice hoarse with fatigue. "I have to be," she replied, the coffee cup untouched in her hands. "I still feel death nearby." That night, as she reviewed the last details of the launch, an anonymous email appeared in her inbox. The subject was, "Where Time Meets." The body of the message was a pixelated photo of the Butterfield building, but instead of flames, the image showed a massive crack running through the facade, like an exposed vein. The text below simply said, "Not all ruins are made of fire." Sophia felt a chill that had nothing to do with the office's icy air conditioning. It wasn't fire. It was the building itself. The premonition had been a warning, but death had tricks up its sleeve. The fire had been merely a disguise, a distraction. The real threat was structural. The crumbling facade. Death wasn't playing to lose. She called Alex, her voice choked. "The Butterfield. It's not the fire. It's the building. The facade is going to collapse." Alex laughed, a dry, nervous sound. "Sophia, you're exhausted. It's spam mail, a bad joke." "It's not." "I feel it, Alex. It's death." She's mocking me. Even with the change of venue, Sophia's fear didn't subside. Death wasn't just an event. It was an entity that adapted. Now, she had to deal with the paranoia that any place, any moment, could be her final trap. New York City, once her source of inspiration, now seemed like a labyrinth of invisible dangers. The day of the Premonition launch dawned with a gray sky over New York, promising rain. Sophia, dressed in an elegant black blazer, felt the weight of every gaze on her, anxiety bubbling in her stomach. The grand ballroom of the Empire State Building was packed. Journalists, investors, gamers, and influencers crowded together, the buzz of voices filling the vast hall. The aroma of coffee and snacks floated in the air, an attempt at normalcy amidst the storm Sophia felt approaching. Alex was beside her, a forced smile on his face as he greeted guests. He tried to look relaxed, but Sophia could feel the tension in his shoulders. "Looks like Death decided to take the day off," he whispered, trying to lighten the mood. Sophia just shook her head. "She never takes a day off, Alex. She's just changing the rules." During the Premonition presentation, Sophia tried to focus on the words, on the vibrant images of the game projected on the big screen. But her mind was on high alert. Every creak of the floorboards, every sound from outside, made her heart pound. She looked at the panoramic windows of the hall, at the imposing view of Manhattan, and wondered if death would come from above, from below, or from somewhere she couldn't even imagine. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated through the hall. It wasn't from outside, but from within. A spotlight on the ceiling, part of the event's complex lighting, had plummeted, hitting the floor a few feet from where Sophia stood. Glass shattered, scattering luminous shards like diamonds. A sudden silence fell over the hall, followed by startled murmurs. "Just a minor technical glitch," Alex exclaimed, forcing a laugh, as the security team rushed to cordon off the area. Sophia, however, felt the air thin. It wasn't an accident. It was a warning. Death was saying, "I see you." She looked at the broken spotlight, and a shiver ran down her spine. It had been a close call. Too close. Death was closing in, and Sophia realized that every small change she made, every attempt to divert, only led her down a more intricate path. Tension hung in the air like a thick fog. The spotlight incident, though downplayed by the team, had injected a dose of paranoia into Sophia. She now saw danger in every shadow, in every unexpected movement. The launch, which should have been a triumph, had turned into a test of her own sanity. The smell of burnt metal still lingered in the ballroom, mixed with the sweet scent of floral arrangements, a bizarre combination that only Sophia seemed to notice. During the cocktail reception, a prominent investor, Mr. Harrison, 50, a corpulent man with an easy smile, approached Sophia. "Congratulations, Sophia. The game is revolutionary. I can't wait to see the revenue explode." Sophia forced a smile. "Thank you, Mr. Harrison. We hope so." He cleared his throat. However, the last-minute venue change generated some significant extra costs. And, of course, the negative publicity from the lighting incident doesn't help. "It was an accident, Mr. Harrison." Sophia tried to argue, but her voice sounded weak. "Perhaps, but these accidents are not good for business." He gave her a paternal pat on the shoulder, a gesture that Sophia felt as a weight. "I hope there are no more unpleasant surprises." Sophia felt a lump in her throat. Mr. Harrison's words were like nails, pinning her to a situation she was desperately trying to control. Death was not only coming for her. It was coming for her dreams, her work, her reputation. The web was tightening. Later, as she tried to move away from the crowd, a clumsy waiter bumped into her, dropping a tray of champagne glasses. The cold, bubbling liquid splashed onto her blazer, and a shard of glass lightly scratched her arm. "I'm sorry, miss." The waiter stammered, pale. "It's okay," Sophia said, wiping her arm. But she knew it wasn't okay. The cut was small, almost invisible, but the shiver she felt when she saw the blood was a vivid reminder of life's fragility. Death was in every detail, every small accident that seemed harmless. She felt the cold of the marble under her shoes, the smell of alcohol and champagne at the tip of her nose, and a strange ringing in her ears, as if time was distorting. Alex approached. "Are you okay? What a rotten day." "I'm exhausted," Sophia admitted. "I feel like I'm in a race against time, and every shortcut I take leads to a dead end." The night wore on, and the celebratory atmosphere seemed to dissipate, replaced by a strange apprehension that only Sophia seemed to perceive. The ballroom's air conditioning, once a relief, now seemed to emit an icy chill, a premonition of something darker. She avoided the stage, the bright lights, and the journalists' attention. Instead, she sought refuge in a quieter corner of the ballroom, observing the crowd with weary eyes. The smell of alcohol and perfume was almost unbearable. Alex, seeing Sophia's unease, tried to cheer her up. "Come on, Sophia. The game's a success. You did it. Relax a little." "I can't, Alex. I feel death near, closer than ever." She shivered, not from cold, but from a sense of imminence. One of the projection screens, displaying scenes from the game, began to malfunction. The images flickered erratically, distorting ChronoShift's crisp graphics into chaotic and disturbing patterns. A sharp, piercing noise emanated from the loudspeakers, causing some guests to cover their ears. The AV technician frantically ran around, trying to fix the problem. "Interference," Alex mumbled, but Sophia knew it was more than that. It was a direct attack, a disturbance in the fabric of reality, as if death was stretching its fingers to reach the event she had so carefully planned. The game, her creation, was being manipulated, used against her. She felt her heart race. Death wasn't just coming for her. It was coming for everything she loved. The image of her game's characters, distorted and fragmented on the screen, was a terrifying sight. It was as if death was mocking her, saying, "You can change the scenery, but you can't change destiny." By this point, Sophia was exhausted, her nerves frayed. She needed a moment of air, of silence. Without thinking twice, she headed for the emergency doors, feeling the cold breeze of the corridor almost like an embrace. She needed to escape that place, even if only for a few moments. In the silent corridor, Sophia felt temporary relief. The noise from the hall turned into a distant murmur. The air was fresher, but a strange smell of dust and mold lingered there, as if something ancient was awakening. She closed her eyes for an instant, trying to calm her pounding heart. When she opened them, she realized she had left her cell phone in the hall. That personal item, with all her memories and contacts, called to her. A part of her game had been created on that device. The phone. Death wouldn't let her go so easily. The emergency corridor was a labyrinth of identical doors, an echo of the emptiness Sophia felt. The air was heavy, charged with the metallic smell of electricity and a touch of ozone, like before a storm. She knew she needed the phone. It was more than a device. It was an extension of herself, the portal to the world she had built in ChronoShift. Going back was inevitable, a weak link in the chain that death was stretching. With each step back into the hall, the ringing in her ears intensified, blending with the distorted sounds of the party that seemed to come from a distant abyss. The feeling that the ground beneath her feet was uncertain grew. The ballroom, once a symbol of success, was now a cage, its walls slowly closing in. As she re-entered the hall, the scene was one of silent chaos. People moved in slow motion, voices inaudible. The projection screen displaying her game was completely blank, an infinite black screen. The lights, which had once danced, now pulsed at a sinister rhythm, casting elongated, distorted shadows that seemed to move on their own. Sophia saw her phone on a coffee table, exactly where she had left it. It was a point of light amidst the growing darkness. She reached out to grab it, feeling the familiar cold metal. At that instant, the screen came back to life with a blinding white flash. An image appeared, not of Chronoshift, but of the Butterfield building. Not in flames, but crumbling, the facade collapsing in a cloud of dust. The image froze for a second, and then a cracking sound. It wasn't the screen. It was the grand ballroom itself. A crack began to snake across the ceiling, like an exposed vein, extending towards Sophia. The sound of plaster and metal breaking became deafening. Alex shouted something, but his voice was swallowed by the roar. The air was filled with the suffocating dust of concrete and the acrid smell of exposed earth. Sophia felt no pain, only a strange sense of lightness, as if she were floating. Her eyes met the image of the Butterfield facade, disintegrating on the screen, and then everything went dark. Death did not use fire, but rather the fragility of the structure she had tried to avoid. The final piece of the puzzle was not an event, but her own obsession with changing destiny, which brought her back into the icy embrace. The silence that followed was filled only by the slow drip of a rusty faucet somewhere distant and the muffled murmur of the city outside. The premonition had come true, but in a way no one could have foreseen. What remained was the reflection. To what extent can we fight against what is written? And when death plays, what is the true prize? Watch the next video to unravel the secrets of other premonitions and the macabre games of fate.